This is a company that's done an uplisting from NASDAQ to the New York Stock Exchange.
How do we go small cap, mid cap, large cap? NYSE is where you want to be.
Investors are going to come into your company for any number. They like the story, they like the stock, they like the sector, and also there are traders.
Think about how lifespan data that we have is going to change financial planning, financial services. Now we can sit here and say, wait a minute, this is how you should be allocating that capital based upon the remaining of your life.
Instead of rewards dollars, they give shares of stock. Good people, good company, good story, and good earnings. And
I love it.
Got a great company. 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody, it's me, the Unwanted Wall Street, here from the balcony at the New York Stock Exchange. I brought you everything from food, fashion, finance, trading, all that kind of stuff. You know, I love to tell the human story, and I love to talk about stocks that are come to the New York Stock Exchange. I am the brand ambassador of this wonderful institution, and so what's really important to me is here when you have a company that is based on a personal mission that obviously the CEO and the founders are on, that makes such a difference from just a product or something else. And so I'm here today with Jay Jackson.
Hey, good to see you. CEO
of Abacus. And so it is my honor to be here talking to you, and welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, super excited to be here, man. I follow you.
Well, that makes me even happier.
Yeah.
So we were just talking about sort of brand loyalty, and and I'd love everyone to just give a little background. So this is a company that, there's the NASDAQ, right? And then there's the NYSE. We are obviously the best of the best. And this is a company that's done an uplisting from NASDAQ to the New York Stock Exchange. Give me a little background on what made you do that, and then we'll talk about the company in general.
Look, the NYSE is a brand that's known globally. We're a global business. We have offices in Luxembourg and Sweden and in Europe, and being able to have that brand recognition of the NYSE, but also it always comes down to execution, right? Like when you're trading on the NASDAQ and other exchanges, your bid-ask spread might be wide.
Yes.
Here, we're working with Citadel. Citadel's a great company, and if you're a company that's going to, as you said, uplist, we think about our next step in growth. How do we go small cap, mid cap, large cap? NYSE is where you want to be.
Yeah, and look, at 100%, our differentiator is the market maker.
Right.
Right? We know, look, there's nothing wrong with NASDAQ, and we know, look, you think about it, some of the greatest tech companies in the world are there, and the original differentiator was basically your capitalization, right? It's some of the early tech companies list there because they did not have the capitalization enough to list here, right? But a lot of that has changed, and that's made it a place where now you could, but the difference between the market maker's differentiator is somebody that creates a smooth and active market. They inject liquidity into the market. They're there for the spread, right? And how do you bring on new investors? Look, investors are going to come into your company for any number. They like the story, they like the stock, they like the sector, and also there are traders. You know, I'm on the cutting edge of these 50 million new traders that came into the market around COVID, right? With the Webull and the Robinhood, the democratization of the trading community is huge.
Massive.
And they are hopefully going to be, hopefully this is a big part of my audience. We're here to tell them your story about these are younger investors, new investors, right? Traders, right? You don't mind that people are going to trade your stock. You want liquidity. You want, if somebody trades your stock and gets a try, it's a matter of opening that door. They're going to hear they're going to hear the story. Then they go on to become an investor.
Well, that's right, and they become ultimately long-term investors. Like what I think was unique about our story is that you can look at it both fundamentally and technically, right? Which is what I loved about our story. Fundamentally, 100% more growth rates, top and bottom line. That's an awesome fundamental story. Been in existence 20 years. We've had 10 consecutive positive quarters. We've beat earnings expectations every quarter since we went public.
Amazing.
6 by 30%. The big thing is our margins, 60% last quarter. Very few stocks you can find that, but let's talk about the technicals. We just hit a golden cross. So you're looking at short interest, you're looking at all these things, and the traders are looking at this going, okay, as people got to know our story, they see our returns. We've executed, and now there's a trade on both sides. Right? And those traders are finding an opportunity.
They may be less likely to put on that heavy short position.
That's exactly right.
So before we even go further, we've got to tell people about the company. Give me a little bit. Are you the founder?
I'm one of, and the business goes back 20 years.
Well, let's go back to it. So it's in the insurance space. It's in the reinsurance. It's not reinsurance.
Super interesting. We do something totally unique. We buy the policies from the individual insured.
Okay, let's go back. Let's give it baseline. So you go to elderly people who have had long life insurance policies forever, right? They're on their weaning years. They're on their whatever you call those years, the golden years.
The golden years,
right?
the aging years,
and you go up to them and then you tell the story.
That's what happens is very, very quickly, Life insurance is a $14 trillion industry. It's 2.5 times U.S. residential real estate. 90% of those contracts never pay a claim.
Really?
90.
Wow.
People don't realize
That's trillions of dollars.
Trillions of dollars never pays. And the reason why is when that person turns 80, they look at this and they're like, I don't need this anymore. My kids are older. What are their options? They just simply stop paying on it. They treat it as a cost versus an actual asset. We teach them to treat it like an asset, meaning they can sell it to a third party. The Supreme Court says so. They sell it to us.
Is that a recent
it becomes an
Supreme
asset.
Court?
No,
it's
goes
always
all the way
been,
back 100 years.
Really?
It's the foundation of life insurance that says this. Life insurance is personal property. By the way, nowhere else in the world does it say that. If you fill out an application for life insurance in the United States, you know what the top section is? Owner. You own the contract.
Amazing.
You wouldn't go to sell your house and just give it away for nothing. What would you do? Those premiums are like your mortgage
payments. And you also wouldn't
payments.
default on it and stop paying your mortgage.
That's
or whatever.
crazy.
Right, it's an asset.
We go in and help them value what the asset is worth today. How do you do it? That's where the data in our business is so valuable, not just the market size, but then we get health medical records. We re-underwrite them. We establish what a new lifespan and longevity it is. So if you're going to buy a contract, it's a futures contract, you got to know how long you're going to own it. That's what we do. We set that future. But wait a minute, how valuable is that data? We take that data, resell it to pensions, work with federal agencies.
And so that's the second stream of revenue.
Second stream of revenue.
Wow, that's incredible.
We are this massive data company that is now, we track over 3 million lives for pension funds all over the United States so that they can better understand when mortalities occur. Big election issue was that Social Security was paying people who had already passed away. The federal government doesn't know. We do. We built all the track into every single funeral home in counties in America, so we now know when that happens.
So you can track when someone actually dies, and you're doing that because there's a potential customer there.
That's exactly right. But beyond that, we might actually own that contract, and we know that we got to get paid on that contract.
Of course, I didn't even think of that.
But then now you think about the pension funds. They're overpaying, and we work with some of the largest state pension funds in the country. People don't realize this about our business. When they look at our company, they're like alt asset manager. But when we say mortality-driven data company or longevity-driven data company, think about how longevity is going to change everything we do in financial services. The insurance piece, core grade engine, ROEs over 20, phenomenal business with massive upside. Now continue that through the life cycle. What's number two? What's the number one thing people fear in retirement? Running out of money.
Running out of money, exactly, of course.
Doesn't it make sense? You want to know how long you're going to be in retirement?
Exactly.
Shouldn't you get that lifespan data? Think about how lifespan data that we have is going to change financial planning, financial services. 60/40 is broken. We all know this to your traders. Now we can sit here and say, wait a minute, this is how you should be allocating that capital based upon the remaining of your life.
Let me ask you a question, because I've gone through a lot of, so I got COVID on March 15, 2020. I was patient 0. And I was already quite well known. It was a big story. And I ended up getting meningitis. I was given 3 months to live. I had a really rough time. I've had 7 neck surgeries since then. I got long COVID, and I was basically almost bedridden for a while. I was in a neck brace for 4.5 years. And then I started going after this. My wife was a filmmaker, and she did a story about a gentleman who had come to the States to become a doctor. He was from India, and he was a Sikh. And he couldn't afford to go to medical school, so he joined the U.S. Army in order to pay for his medical school. When he got to the Army, they said, you're not allowed to wear religious headdress in the Army. And so he ended up fighting it to the Supreme Court and had it changed. Ends up getting deployed to Iraq, gets stage 4 bone cancer in Iraq, comes home, is given 4 months to live, embarks on this journey of the new biohack anti-aging longevity thing with all these peptides, and you know about all that thing.
Very much so.
Which is basically going to extend our life cycle into the 120s. And so I started this protocol. So unfortunately, my wife passed away after she finished making this film of this guy. And we became very close, and she sort of vowed before she passed away that he would take care of me because I was so sick. So about a year ago, I embarked on this longevity quest and anti-aging quest. It's changed my life. As you can see, I have more energy. Have you? Are you?
Of course. No, I'm on the same journey.
Okay, so it's an amazing thing that's gone to have an impact on your business, because you're talking. I know from my doctor that I will be able to, he believes, first of all, I'm going to be able to get back 20 or 30 years, physical years of my age. But people in the future, with all of these peptides and all these components that they're going to be able, will be able to live over 100 years old. That's going to change the nature of your business.
Let's start with some of those stats, and that's a lot there, right? What you said, I think, was the most important statement you made, was that you're going to get time back that you never thought you had, whether it's 20 years or 10 years. I talk to people about, we take all of our data, we're going to put all that data back out to the public, which is what we do, and to help them better understand the impacts of longevity. We talk about lifespan. That's the end point. What happens in the last 10 years of life? You know what really impacts people's wealth? the last 3 or 4 years of life. I lost my father just back in August.
I'm sorry.
The most expensive part of his entire life was the last 2 years. I mean, 50% of the wealth is gone. And it's not that he had very much. He was a fireman for 40 years. It's all gone to, in fact, pay for that. What we feel is that what you said was the most important statement of all. Focus on the things you can do today to impact how healthy you can be for as long as you possibly can.
And far into your last years.
Yeah, that's what really matters. Now, getting to 120 and getting to 100, I don't know yet.
Right.
You know, I think that's a great goal and a great ambition. And maybe genetics and other technologies that they can, CRISPRs and other things they can do to enhance that, will have that.
As long as you can be.
That's exactly right. I wrote an article back a month ago on Dick Van Dyke.
Okay.
Here's a fun fact about Dick Van Dyke. He just broke 100. 100th birthday.
100,
Amazing, right? Do you know how many people over 6 foot tall have ever lived to 100? No. On record, now 2 of them are very debatable, and I don't even like to mention the other 2. Dick could be the very first in humankind.
Wow.
Now, people will argue with that, and I go, prove me different. And it doesn't happen. And there's a whole set of reasons why that occurs, right? So, you know, there's going to be some of us like me who's 6'5", 6'6", right? There's never been somebody to break 95, my height.
Wow, okay.
Right? I think the greatest gift I can give myself, my family, and everyone around me is understanding time. And understanding that
it's
if I can
the one commodity you can't get back.
So you better stop and appreciate it. Having a purpose-driven life, having an idea around what are the things I can do today to impact, to give myself more functioning time. Functioning time is the secret, and it goes back to what we do at Abacus.
Okay.
You want to live a very functioning lifestyle in your retirement. Understanding and accepting how long you plan on being in retirement is one of the most important factors, because we use currency, our capital, our money, as a way to freedom, right? As a way to exercise, as a way to do these things. So, you know, I tell everybody this: you want to give somebody a gift, give them the gift of a second language in their 70s. What do? We all know neurologically, big impact. What else? Travel, exercise.
Yes.
You're going to grab a bag and walk around.
Yes.
Think about it. You also have community. Who are you going to talk to? Everybody, because you've learned this second language, right? So it's things like that that we can have a massive impact on, that Abacus is taking that data. And what we're doing, though, is that you have to build capital around that. You have to be able to monetize that data. Monetizing it first through reporting, second through services. When you think about financial services, it's going to change. Everything you've talked about is spot on. Abacus is leading the way in how we have these conversations about financial planning, because that's what's next, right? Because that's what I think is broken in the financial system. And I'll leave you with this too. If you think about how hard is it to talk about mortality? Everybody's terrified of it.
Yeah, of course.
Right? The ones who aren't are the ones who appreciate, like you and I, understand our own mortality. The biggest grace I've ever been given is the opportunity to speak to people towards the end of their life who have come to grips with the fact that this is actually going to occur. And what that means is you slow time down by appreciating every moment you're in.
You know, look, if there's one thing, and I'll probably get teary about talking about it, but the one thing my wife used to say, and I'm a workaholic, you can see that, right? Today, you're my 6th interview of the day, and I'm so happy.
Hopefully your best.
Oh, absolutely, my best, no question. But you know, she would always say, you know, why? And I've been doing this for 41 years, and she would always say, you know what, why don't we take Friday and Monday off? And I would go, how can I do that? How can you ask me to do? I mean, look how busy I am. And now, if I could get a Friday, Monday, I'd kill for it, right? So you think about that. It's so important, and also to think about, look, the amount of money that was spent in the last few years of one's life, as you just described with your father. I had it unfortunately, with my brother and my wife. You know, that the mortality is so important to talk about. How we spend money, how we deal with time. You know, how it'll affect how we deal with health. Right? Because that's what needs to be addressed. Yes, we're going to be able to add some things to our body that are going to make us live longer. But if there's no quality of life, we're here for not a long time, but a good time.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
That's the bottom line. And so
let's make it better.
What you guys are offering is that capability.
We are. We're offering that capability of understanding. I don't have the next medicine that's going to take you to 120, but what I do is have the data so that you can appreciate and treat yourself better today, so that tomorrow you understand that. And again, you know, we're living in a world where we don't have these conversations. The sandwich generation, where you have young children living with grandma, grandpa, and of course their kids in the middle, it's becoming a huge piece of what's going on in the United States, and that's education based. And what we provide are the resources to do so. We paid out $250 million to people last year just on their insurance policy side. Now we're doing asset management. We grew from 100 million in AUM to 3.5 billion in 3 years.
What's the follow-up? Have you done, is there any data on the follow-up of those people who turned in their policy and then went on?
Oh, of course.
Right? There must be. That's,
of course. No, we track, it's called actual to expected.
Right.
We work very closely with insurance companies, pension funds, agencies all across the United States and work on that data. And what it is that if you think about someone's lifespan, it's an arc.
Right.
Never a straight line.
Right.
Because there's so many probabilities.
No one gets out of here alive.
Well, and that's true. It always arcs down eventually. But there's so many probabilities in that arc. That's why it's not a straight line. That's why you create a probability return. So the decisions you make changes your arc. Right? And that's what it's really about. Probabilistically, we don't know for sure what's going to get us to 120. But why wouldn't you do the things today that you're pretty confident that would, right? If you're going to go out for a walk, put some weight in your hands. We know that the decrease of muscle mass in someone's body as they age is a huge, huge component to mortality.
And we're learning so much about the mind.
The mind is huge.
Make sure my time is good. We got a few minutes.
Yeah,
the mind is a big. So I did a story recently on Alzheimer's dementia.
That's right.
And that we know that keeping the mind active is one. It's a muscle, right? You keep the mind active. You have to do that. You keep
the mind active. Like there's certain care techniques that you can really employ. What we're finding is with all of our data, the more the data that we put out and share with people, the more clients we get. Right? I already have the customer. I've got all these verticals. All I'm doing is now offering them services around their entire life cycle.
You know what? Look, there's so that's why I love this, and I was so happy about it when I met your partner. That it's a story that needs to be told. Right. And there's a stock that's, think about it, it's so much more than just a company that's is that where the money is the
Absolutely.
outcome. You're changing people's lives in so many different ways. You're opening a window into a in parts of their lives that tend to be those where they are arced down, that may not necessarily have to be that way. People don't have to go out of here on the bottom. They can go out on the top.
I tell you what my goal and dream is. I get sick the day before I die.
Exactly.
And then I'm like, that's it, guys. It was a great run.
So look, we're here, and I'm so happy that you're here because I'm obviously one of the ambassadors of this place, and I spend so much of my time at least touting the benefits of coming here, of the stock exchange, and it being the place that represents this history, it represents that tradition, it represents the market maker, and all those things. And I think it'll really affect the way your stock trades in a big way.
Look, I agree. Look at all the companies here with me.
Exactly.
It doesn't get much bigger than this, and associating yourself with that doesn't get much better.
And so I'm happy that we had this time. I hope we do it again.
Thanks,
we'll do a follow-up
we will.
in a year. And, look, obviously, if people just look at your history and 10 back-to-back quarters that are, that's spectacular. And
we're lighting it up.
At the end of the day, earnings are the lifeblood of a company,
That's right?
There's a lot of chatter and a lot of other things. It's a good story. It's good people. It's good earnings. That's what's going to make it.
And
that's what's going to bring.
Employees own stock.
Well, so that's so brand loyalty. It's amazing. I did. Last thing I'll end it. I interviewed a gentleman who just went public on NASDAQ. With a company called WeShop.
Oh, sure.
WeShop is the only company in history where the rewards points that you get, it's a marketplace. You can buy clothes, food, whatever under it. Well, instead of rewards dollars, they give shares of stock.
I love it.
So he actually worked for 5 years with FINRA to be able to give people shares of stock as their redemption so you get we shares when you spend money. And at the end of the year you get a certain fractional amount of shares. So imagine the brand loyalty created in that. That's what it's all about. Good people, good company, good story, and good earnings. And then you've got a great company.
Man, we're there.
And the NYSE, and it's a perfect formula for a good stock.
More to come.
Pleasure.
Can't wait to see you again.
It's been a pleasure. Jay Jackson. This is the Einstein on Wall Street. That's all I got to say about that. Abacus. Check it out.